tomorrow we should make it early in the morning. I may even go back to my 4 a.m. my 4 a.m.ers. Okay. Oh. Okay, what's today? The 9th? I totally forgot. I know with our last Bible study, we're talking about loneliness. And I think we've already hit like all the life updates ish. So as people come into the study or as people come into the live, I'll see what's going on with you guys, how y'all feeling, and like what is on y'all's hearts and y'all's mind, and then we can go from there. So per usual, let me know how you're feeling on a scale from 1 to 10. It's Monday, so it's a brand new week. I hope you had a good weekend. Last time I left y'all, I let y'all know I was going out of town, so I went to San Antonio, came back. So an eventful weekend. Thank you. Took the car to get there. So I am still in shock. I got the car literally a week ago, 7 days ago. Last Monday is when I got the car. So definitely still in awe. And I'm still, very much grateful. If it wasn't for the timing, just everything just worked out perfectly. Um, Thank you and good morning. But how are y'all feeling? On a scale from 1 to 10, let me know how you're feeling. Let me know where you're from. Um, yeah, still in awe. Still in awe for sure. But how y'all feeling? Where are you from? Happy Monday. Um, Sorry, I just quite literally. Hi, Africa. Oh my gosh. What time is it over there? It is early afternoon for me. It is 12:36. So it is not like an early AM Bible study. I am this time change. Definitely tripped me up a little bit. So I am a little bit tired, but wow. How cool. Well, welcome. Now, hopefully again y'all are feeling good. Um, I you know how last time when we were talking about loneliness, that was just something I was like personally, I think, coming out of. So I was able to speak to it. But one thing, last time we talked about kind of ish spiritual maturity, processing your feelings with the Lord, and then being unequally yoked with somebody. And I think today we were kind of talking about friends, making a friend group. I think I kind of want to continue talking about like me personally. I think I want to continue kind of talking about that whole like unequally yoked conversation and not necessarily romantic, but I think friendship. Like I think I want to continue maybe in like a relationship convo, just like how we have a relationship with people and how we build a relationship with people. Because last time I talked a little bit of each, but I just think I don't know. I feel like that's so important, but I think that's something that I'm right smack in the middle of doing in my own life. So it is not the easiest. Sorry, I'm a little tired this afternoon. But we'll see. But it's just something going on with you guys. I always ask whoever happens to get in here early, whoever happens to get in here first, if there's something going on like with you. So there's something on your heart and there's something on your mind, let me know. Like I said last time they were super random. Uh, where'd it go? Last time somebody had mentioned the spiritual maturity, processing feelings, and then being unequally yoked, and then specifically obviously lust. And then before that, we're talking patience, forgiveness, distractions, discipline, intimacy, relationship with God, and then once again lust. So lust is like always a topic of combo. But is there anything specifically on y'all's mind that's going on? Is just something specific going on that you feel like you're having a hard time with? That way I can write down. Wait. Sorry, I'm trying to find like my right notes. What's today? Yeah, and then we talked boundaries, consistency over thinking, communication, like taming your tongue, all that stuff. So let's do a new nothing. It is quiet today. That's always kind of a good sign though, if nothing's on your mind. If everyone's just like in a good mood and everyone is just doing well in life, that's always a good sign. It's always a good sign if no one's struggling with anything. And then I already spoke to not necessarily what I was struggling with, but I already spoke to what is kind of been the more challenging parts of life lately in the last one, as far as like that isolation goes, like that loneliness, not talking like romance or anything, but like loneliness. Oh, hi. How are y'all feeling and how are you like how are y'all feeling and where are you from? Both YouTube. Okay. If everyone is fine, which is fine. Oh, hello. Welcome. What time is it over there? Jeez. You're across the world. Oh, uh, hold on. Um, oh, we have South Bend, Houston. I love that. Well, that's good then. That's good that y'all are doing good. So, 10 out of 10. So then, what we'll do, since everyone is doing well, last time I had specifically spoke on go. We were talking about somebody was struggling being unequally yoked with somebody. Um, but I do want to emphasize something that maybe somebody will need to hear today. I decided to get what am I in? I'm in Proverbs right now, right? So oh, you know what? Hold on. Pause. Oh, pause. Yes. Proverbs. So I'm personally in Proverbs right now, but the reason why that subject came up last Bible study is because one of the people just always struggle with people and people always struggle with relationships, like romantic relationships. And like that's fine. I mean, you know, life. But as a single person from the outside looking in, as somebody who is single and secure, that has obviously dealt with like all of, the struggles, I get it. But sometimes it gets really, really hard when you see people kind of fall into the same traps like over and over and over and over and over again because you just want to like pull everybody and you just want to get everyone's mind like out of the, you know, just you want to grab everybody. You want to be like girl or like guy, like get up because people make such a big impact on people. And I can't emphasize this enough. Like, I should read. I can't emphasize this enough. Like when you are not, I guess, in the emotional hands of somebody, it just makes such a difference in your entire life. What the? Did my thing pop off? It sure did. That's fine. I guess, let me bring this up real quick. Proverbs, yeah, you really do when it comes to people, but the thing is, this is Proverbs chapter 5 specifically. It's a warning against adultery, but it's not necessarily about, I don't want to focus on like the adultery part, but it's Proverbs chapter 5. And it's, again, it's all warning against adultery. But I want to highlight something that, so this isn't, this is specifically verse 23 to 20. Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm so just kidding. Let's go back before that, chapter 4 and chapter 5. So in chapter 4, verses 23 to 27, above all else, guard your heart, everything you do flows from it, and don't let any corrupt speech come out your mouth, yada, yada, yada. In my Life Application Bible, there is a little breakdown that says this: put boundaries on your desires. Don't go after everything you see. Look straight ahead. Keep your eyes fixed on your goal, and don't get sidetracked on detours that lead to sin. Let me say that one more time. Put boundaries on your desires. Don't go after everything you see. Look straight ahead and keep your eyes fixed on your goal. Don't get sidetracked on detours that lead to sin. So again, this is to reflect 23 to 27. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Keep your mouth free from perversity. Keep corrupt talk from your lips. Let your eyes look straight forward. Fix your gaze directly before you. At the beginning, like 4 Bible studies ago, I was explaining that my biggest goals, or I wouldn't say goals, but the biggest things that I'm currently working on in my own personal life are the 3 things. It is communication, relationships, and career, right? Career is kind of irrelevant to you guys because it's like my own personal career. However, the reason why I guess it has some kind of relevance is my career has everything to do with talking, right? So it's not a translation. Well, I read NIV. Well, I read NIV, and my journaling Bible is ESV, but this is a life application Bible. So I tell everybody all the time, like, get a life application Bible. You need a life application Bible. It's a study Bible. So with my career comes a lot of communication, right? But if you are struggling to, this kind of ties into what we talked about last time, which is like making friends and, building a community and like building a village and just having to learn how to communicate with people in a way that serves you and serves them. That could be really, really, really tough. And no matter how good you are at speaking, it's really hard if you are like a very prideful person, or if you've never really been taught, how to communicate with somebody. Communication just can be tough, period, right? And when you mix poor communication, or you mix like not being able to emotionally regulate yourself and all those things, when you mix that with really not the best desires, it could create a lot of chaos in your world, right? So as somebody who is coming from like a very chaotic life to where it's not, hey, um, to where it's not as chaotic, it's one of those things where you get to a point, you do truly have to be mindful of what you're desiring, how you're coming about that desire, and why your heart is wanting the things that it does. So again, that's specifically this in chapter 4, that 23 to 25. Above all, and we hear this all the time, but above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Keep your mouth free of perversity. Keep corrupt talk from your lips. Let your eyes look straight forward. Fix your gaze directly before you. My little breakdown of that is: guard your heart, yes, watch your mouth, and like truly just keep minding your business. Those, I think, 3 things, like guarding your heart, watching your mouth, minding your business, that I think that's like in what I'm learning is the best thing you can do to truly not fall into rather it's temptation or just not fall into any distractions, going down to the breakdown. Put boundaries on your desires. Don't go after everything you see. Look straight ahead. Keep your eyes fixed on your goal and don't get sidetracked on detours that lead to sin. Now, that is going to be different for everybody because everybody has a different weakness and everybody has a different vice and everyone gets distracted by completely different things. Maybe some person gets more distracted by food than they do a person, or by a drug than they do food, or by, a certain habit or like a certain thing, right? If you are not happy currently, like in your life, when it comes to who's in your life, it is so important. And this could be a friend, this could be a partner, this could be family. I think one of the most important, crucial things we will do in our life is learn how to manage the relationships we have and get rid of people, or learn how to grieve people who should no longer be in our life. So I want that to be the basis of today's conversation. I want that to be the basis of this Bible study is I want to talk to the overall, like, yes, managing relationships, but being okay when relationships end, and being able to grieve the end of relationships well. I had saw I had heard somebody say, like, not too long ago, but they were basically saying that, like, as soon as you start to get prideful, one more time, no, I lied. As soon as you start to get insecure, that means you're thinking about yourself more than God. And I think that is so true. So if you, once you start getting insecure about anybody in your life, them leaving you, something ending, once your focus is fixed on them and off of you, you completely start seeing what's wrong with you, right? And you come good. You completely start seeing, like, all you're focused on and fixated on is how you are going to keep somebody in your life, or how you are going to make something work, or whatever the case may be, right? And when you go, like, thinking about those things, like when you're trying to grieve somebody, our first instinct always, well, it's we're not typically okay with that. We're not typically like, okay, you know what, God, like, help me grieve them. You are doing everything. You are fine. Every insecurity of you that comes out comes out. So every reason why you think you messed up, or every reason why you think that you're not good enough, or then you're in your head about why they are, or how come they didn't pick you, or how come they didn't choose you, or how come they're leaving, or whatever the case may be. All of that energy and all of those thoughts, they're just being directed in a place that just is not relevant at all. Focusing on yourself is so important. And I know we hate the term focus on yourself, but I need you to really focus on yourself. And when I say, like, focus on yourself, I mean what I had said earlier with that quote. If you are dealing with an insecurity, like, if you are, it's one thing to where you are really confident in life and you're very secure and you're just like open, right? You're open to relationships and connections and stuff like that, very, very casual, like, not casually, but like you're accepting both ways. Like, you love your life as is, but it's like, hey, like, I've done everything I wanted to do. It sounds like the next step is more friends or a romantic partner or whatever. That is normal. That's life. Like, that is just the progression of life, right? But so we're not talking about that. We're not talking about this natural progression in life where you are fine where you're at and you're content where you're at and you are just kind of ready to keep on the steps. I'm talking about if you are genuinely having a hard time, like, this ties into the last one again, that loneliness. If you are genuinely having a hard time being confident in your life, like if you genuinely are dealing with insecurities and you feel the need out of insecurity to either have somebody in your life or have more of something or be in a romantic relationship, or if you keep circling back to the same person or you keep going back to the same thing or you keep, keeping something in your life active that has no business being there, then like out of an insecurity, out of a lack of confidence, then we that's a problem. Like that's one of those things where at that point your focus is more on you than it is God. Your focus is more on that person than it is God. Like you are putting something, and of course, yes, it could be a form of idolization, but sometimes it's really yes, idolization is like genuinely we understand to the extreme that you can idol something, but a lot of us underestimate how just a simple emotional connection, like being attached to somebody in an unhealthy way, is beyond idolizing. There are some times where we, yes, idolize like on purpose, like we genuinely are like obsessed with them and did it out. But there are other times where you are like really attached to somebody, right? Like your nervous system needs them, like your brain, like you are attached to them, and you just cannot break that attachment. So that's more so what we're talking about. Again, that's why put boundaries on your desires. Now this is old, right? But I remember reading that because you see like all at the bottom the notes, and I remember reading that put boundaries on your desires, and ever since then, like something like shifted in my brain. Like put boundaries on your desires. Don't go after everything you see. Look straight ahead. Keep your eyes fixed on your goal and don't get sidetracked on detours that could lead to sin. So that's important because all of that insecurity, like all those things that don't feel good as a human, right? When you do not have confidence in yourself and what you're doing in your life, and we've all been there. I think we will all go through periods where we don't feel the most confident because it could be for multiple reasons. It could be because you lost a job. It could be because you're going through financial strife. It could be because you are going through a breakup. It could be because you are just not following your dreams. Maybe you are not following your purpose, you're not walking in your purpose, you're not reaching any kind of goal, so you just feel like you're not really doing anything like what you want to do in life. It could be something that is putting you under a lot of stress. Maybe you just got pregnant unexpectedly. Maybe you are going through relationship issues. Like are maybe you're getting bullied in some type of way. Online bullying, as we know, is a real thing. So you could be online bullying, or it could be just somebody in your life, whether it's a family member, relationship, friendship, that is just maybe you're dealing, with somebody who just is not healthy, somebody who's abusing you mentally, physically, whatever the case may be. And so they are affecting your confidence, right? So if you are somebody who has some kind of anchor in your life that's attached to a source that's robbing you of your confidence and robbing you of your security, please pay attention to that. So I'm going to pause right there. So please, please, please pay attention to that. Anything, whether it is a person, whether it is a habit, whether it is a job, like it doesn't matter what it is. If there's one source, if there's a source in your life that is creating insecurities in you, or creating a lack of confidence in you, be so very mindful. Again, going back to the original scripture, above all else, guard your heart. Everything you do flows from it, right? Starting with that. Like, if there is something, if you have gotten emotionally attached to something, or something has, gotten a hold of your brain and your heart, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person, it can be anything. When that happens, you got to be very, 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 very mindful, because that is what leads, or what can lead to you just completely disconnecting from yourself. And it is when you are in a mindset like that, do other things look more appealing? Like, do other temptations and other things that you typically would involve yourself in, is when that stuff looks appealing. It is when you're in a very vulnerable, insecure state, does that man or that woman or that act or that whatever looks appealing. It is when you are in that desperation, or like in a very desperate time in life to where you really need physical touch, or you really need attention, or you really need validation, that's going to make you like just start to reach for anything you can. That is what you want to be, again, very, very, very mindful of. If you are in a position like that in life, then stay, because that's what the Bible study is going to be about. But it's specifically for that thought process. Again, if that's where you're at, if that's what you're experiencing, if you feel yourself drawn to something, like, again, it could be a circumstance, a person, a habit. If something draws you, is like has a hold on you, or is drawing you to it, and all it does is create just chaos or, again, insecurity or a lack of confidence, that has to be cut off immediately, or it has to be worked towards getting pulled out of your life. Like we were saying in the last Bible study, and then like I was saying just a little while ago, your life, we've heard this before, but it's like a garden, okay? Your life is like a garden, and you have all these little flowers in there, and you sit in your garden, and and this is going to sound really, really girly, but you decide, right? You decide how you want your garden to grow. It's completely up to you. So every circumstance, every relationship, these are all little flowers in your garden. And but again, I'm also a visual person. So when you look into your garden, right, is every single flower, every single person that's in your life, every single circumstance that you put yourself into, like what that looks like. Like, does it look, do you like your garden? Do you like your garden? Do you like your flowers? Are they blooming? Are you taking care of your flowers? You know what I mean? Like that stuff matters. If there's something important in your garden and you're not taking care of it, like what does that look like? Is there a relationship that, like, and every single person, again, I'm a visual person, but when I imagine my little garden, I imagine like these are all the people in my life and like there are little flowers in there. So for example, if there's a flower, there's a person I care about and like it's dying, that means I'm not watering it well. So like let me go like nourish this relationship. Does this make sense? Again, it's like such a girly visual, but that's how it makes sense in my brain. So knowing, what your garden looks like, right? You're responsible for maintaining it, because remember, we don't like the victim mindset. We don't like the victim mindset whatsoever. So you're responsible for maintaining that. So if you're looking around your garden and you see just dead flowers everywhere, right, meaning like relationships are dead, and or you don't see any flowers at all because there's no relationships in your life, or there are weeds, right? I consider weeds like different circumstances. So if there's a lot of weeds that you're allowing to let grow, is that circumstance getting to you? You know what I mean? So I see like flowers as people and then weeds as like circumstances, like the soil as circumstance. Does this make sense? Again, I know it's girly. Right. Period. So I like to think about that, okay? So I imagine my life and I'm looking at my garden. The soil is circumstances, the flowers are people, okay? So if my if soil wise, right, again, my circumstances in life, if there's something that's stressing me out and it's causing me to neglect all of my, like all of the soil's bad, so it just doesn't allow my flowers to prosper, that means like what am I letting, like what circumstances am I letting get it to my life, right? Like what is it? Is it stress? Is it fear? Like what's going on, right? So because that could be a good visual to help in the future. But a lot of times, so again, this is specifically to anybody who is in this garden, right? And is like not happy in it. Again, we don't want to fall into a victim mindset. You don't want to put yourself in a victim mindset. You can work to maintain your garden, right? When we are moving out of insecurity and fear and all that stuff, again, that builds up. And if you do not know how to get you have to learn, you have to know how to get your confidence back, and you have to know how to get back right to where you're feeling good, not only about yourself, but about your garden, right? You want to feel good about yourself and you want to feel good about your life. You matter. The people in your life matter 100%. Your relationships matter. What you do with your time, what you do with your life, all that matters. We know this. If you genuinely are like, hey, again, going back, right, to like the three things: career, communication, relationships. If that stuff matters to you, right, and you're looking at your little garden, you cannot keep stuff in there that yes, 100%, because we are all like little gardens. You 100%, like you cannot, if you're visually looking at your life and you see weeds and you see flowers dying, it is up to you to fix that. Okay. Now, fix doesn't always mean that you water it and you pour into it and you make the change. Sometimes fixing means you are cutting a flower out your garden and you're uprooting it and it's no longer in your garden. That's a person, right? Again, if we're just using my analogy, fixing sometimes looks like a weed killer, meaning no matter what, weeds are going to happen, they're going to grow, circumstances are going to happen, cool. Okay, well, we like, how do we mentally kill that in our brain so that the circumstance does not get to us, so that it doesn't affect our garden? Weeds are going to be there all day, they're going to grow all day, so how do we catch it and kill it? Do you know what I mean? If you are looking around and you are just so unhappy in it, like genuinely, you have the power to fix that. I want to keep reiterating that. And then again, this goes to just what I've been hearing lately. Like, this is a combination of like the comments I've been seeing lately and in the conversations that I've been having. For what, especially nowadays, I think people struggle a lot, like get pulling themselves, I guess, like having a will to live. That, like, that sounds like super dark, but I feel like something I come across a lot is people just don't have that will to live and are just so lost and confused about not only them and their life, but they also don't know how to do their relationships better because everybody wants to just cut people off, and nobody, like, everybody just, relationships are just a mess right now, like truly all over the world as far as like connection and stuff like that goes. But again, how I said earlier with that quote that we had heard, if you are feeling any kind of insecurity, that means you have took your eyes off God and you put it all on you. When you're looking at, again, when you're focusing back on you, which is the whole topic of this, like, how do you focus on yourself? You have your mind, that is like your control center, right? It's like the movie, um Inside Out. That is literally your control center, right? Like, that's your brain and that's your mind. Nobody should be able to hijack any of that control center. Like, you are headquarters. You're up there, okay? Nobody should be able to hijack that. Nobody. Nobody should. Nobody, you should be giving nobody the power to hijack your mind. Do y'all hear me? Like, again, this is going back all to Proverbs 4:23 to 27. You should not, do not allow anybody to hijack your minds. Okay? Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. As soon as somebody gets to your brain, they get to your heart, or vice versa. As soon as somebody gets to your heart, it messes up your mind. Like, you have to be so careful not to let just anybody, and again, it's not even just romantic, it's friendship, it's family. Like, I think a lot of people have lost confidence in who they are and who God made them to be. And I think people just forget that, or even if, or you see like an overarching, like, well, I'm gonna protect my peace, and like this also, like, how everyone's like, protect my peace, protect my peace. I'm like so guarded. Guarded is still unhealthy. It doesn't, like, I mean, yes, guard your heart, but I'm saying, like, being prideful and having like a wall just because you're scared of connection or like getting hurt or whatever the case may be, that's not healthy either. So you really do have to find like this balance between, again, putting boundaries on your desires, going back to the footnotes. You have to like really learn this balance on how to put a boundary over your desire, to still desire things, still desire relationships, still desire whatever you want out of life, but there's a boundary on it, right? Like, keeping it still in the boundaries of God and letting him work how he's supposed to work it, not just you. That's why it says, don't go after everything you see. Look straight ahead. Just keep your eyes fixed on your goal, right? That's why we seek first his kingdom, his righteousness, when everything get added on to us. Again, when you are just focused, like, when you are like, when I think about when I'm in my head and I think about my little control center or whatever, again, a very visual person, and I think about this garden, like, that is me pulling the focus back on me. Some of y'all, some of us, again, when your focus, when your distraction is on so many other things, you will, I promise you, you will get to a point in life where none of those distractions were worth it. The longer you keep letting people pull you from whatever it is that you know you're on your way to do, and I'm not even talking about just God's purpose. Anytime you let somebody hijack your mind, anytime you abandon yourself for somebody else, anytime you let love, now we are talking specifically romantic, anytime you I just made a video on this, but anytime you emotionally connect with an unsuitable partner, right? So anytime that you are just wasting time, not wasting, we don't ever waste time, but anytime that emotional energy is being put into somebody that is not suitable for you, it is just truly taking you farther and farther and farther and farther and farther away from the peace and joy that I know you would desire in your life. And that is so important. A lot of us abandon ourselves for other people, but after it, you'll come to find out that every single time, at the end of the day, all that's left is you. I say this all the time because it's just so true. Like, you are spending your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship, because that is who you're spending your entire life with. You spend your entire life with you, not with your kid, not with that man, not with that woman, not with, you know what I mean? Like, not with that friend, not even, there is nobody. You spend your life with you. You spend your life in your brain. Like, you are the most important relationship. Yours is the one that matters, right? Like, you are the one that has this garden, and it's you who decides how big this gets, or how well you take care of it, or how ugly this garden gets. Like, it's all on you. If it's going to be, if all the flowers are dead, if there's nothing growing, if there's weeds everywhere, like, that is all on you 100%. And I think what's hard is when you do, and for a lot of people it's so late. Like, by the time all these people that you've stayed for, or that you abandon yourself for, or that you like try to make something work with, or that you try to impress, or that you try to people please, or that you try to, you know, that you were anxious with, or did the most desperate things just to keep a connection, 100 out of 10 times it is not worth it, unless it is a relationship that you specifically let go and surrender to God. And it is by it is by the power of the Holy Spirit that something was reconciled. We're not talking about that. So unless it is a situation like that, nothing, 10 times out of 10 times, you're going to look back and either that person's not going to, like, that person's not going to exist anymore. Like, it's going to be just somebody, another person who came and went. It's going to be another life circumstance that came and went, if that makes sense. So that's why it's so important that you keep yourself, like, you have to put your oxygen mask on first, and you have to stay like that. Like, you always have to save yourself first, and you always have to make sure you're good above all else. Again, above all else, guard your heart, not their hearts, not your best friend's heart, not your man's heart, not your kid. No, it's your heart. Like, your heart, you know? Resentment is something everyone experiences. And then there is a point, depending on your experience, or depending on what the relationship looked like or how things ended, where, of course, resentment shows, especially if you are if you are very big hearted, you're a good person, and you give, resentment starts to be created. Well, you can get resentment for a lot of different reasons, but specifically I want to speak to, since we're kind of talking about boundaries already, I want to speak to feeling resentful when you feel like somebody is not loving you the same back. That's going to be the blanket thing. Like, when you're giving to somebody, when you're doing things for somebody, when you are showing somebody, like when you're taking the high road, when you're loving like Christ, right? When you are forgiving, when you are, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you just feel like you are giving 50 and they're only giving 20, or when you feel like, they're maybe getting like you're getting the short end of the stick, and they're not struggling like you are, right? Maybe it's a financial thing, maybe it's an emotional thing, all that stuff. Hear me when I say this, and this is not to ever take away from anybody who is struggling with this, because resentment and anger, all that's very, very real, and it's very, very valid. Resenting somebody means that there is really, at the end of the day, a deep pain, there's a deep hurt that has created anger. somebody, and according to how you feel, somebody has either abandoned you, or they have neglected you, or you feel like maybe they have rejected you, or you feel like they have turned their back on you, or whatever the case may be. Resentment is a very real feeling, right? And it gives us a hardened heart, and it creates anger, and it creates tension, and it creates this breaking in relationships. Okay, so while it's valid and we have all felt it, and it's very real, and it happens, right? It happens for a lot of really ugly reasons sometimes. Being abused, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard when you are getting mistreated, point blank, period. Okay, but this is why your relationship with yourself matters so much. And this is why it's so important, as we keep reading here, to above all else guard your heart. This is why it's so important to get your confidence and security and identity up. This is why it's so important to have Christ as your firm foundation, because resentfulness and that anger, as we know, that is not a fruit of the spirit. And that is the fastest, the offense, getting offended, as we know, whoever's read the bait of Satan, that is his easiest bait to get you pissed off and to get you offended and to get you resentful. That is the easiest way, the fastest way to a hardened heart. The quickest. That is the fastest way to not be like Christ, and to completely start living a life that is now a hell for you, not even that person, because then that is what leads to unforgiveness. Okay, so all that's valid, and we all go through it. But if you are still dealing with resentment, right? We're going to talk about this in like different sections. If you are if you are actively in a relationship, so we're talking people, we're not talking circumstances, right? Because circumstances suck, life sucks, and sometimes things happen to us as far as circumstantial goes that makes us really resentful. That's okay, that's life. If we're talking about people, right? We're talking about human beings. If you are in a relationship, if you are in any active relationship, doesn't matter, friend, family, romantic partner. If you are in any relationship that is active and you are still dealing with resentment, at that point, you are doing it to yourself. You are choosing to actively participate in a relationship that continues to hurt you. That is 100% all on you. Y'all hear me? If you are actively in a relationship that you choose to continue holding on to resent, that you feel, you have resent towards them, that it creates this anger, and there's that, and you still continue to be in this active relationship, that is 100% on you. When you are in an active relationship and there is resentfulness, if you decide that that relationship is still going to exist in your life, because again, I don't care who it is, family member, friend, or romantic partner, you are not obligated to a soul. You are not, I don't care if it's a child, you are not obligated to stay in anybody's life. Blood, not blood, you are not obligated to stay in anybody's life. You should never stay abused or whatever you are feeling resentful for just because you feel like you are obligated to stay in that person's life, or vice versa. You do not need to be in anybody's life. Again, I don't care who it is, family, friend, whatever the case. Now, of course, every situation is going to create a different kind of resentfulness. But if you decide, if we're talking, you're in an active relationship with somebody who you have a hardened heart to, and you decide you're going to stay in that relationship and that person's going to stay in your life, then you need to do the work to either forgive them, or it needs to be done. A lot of times, this is what I was saying earlier, I don't think a lot of us understand how much suffering we do on our own. Remember, we don't like victim mindset. We so easily fall into a victim mindset. I know it's very easy to do. And again, this has nothing to do with, it's not saying that all that stuff is not valid and all that stuff doesn't happen and people hurt people and all that stuff. But again, when you are struggling with resentment and that person is still actively in your life, you are killing yourself. You are letting somebody hijack your mind and hijack your heart, and you are the one living with the heart and heart. They are not. So you either, again, you work on forgiveness, which when it comes to forgiveness, and when it comes to, we'll say forgiveness either for next Bible study or towards the end of this one. So remind me about forgiveness in case I don't run back to this. It'll either be next Bible study or maybe towards the end of this one. But that resentfulness, and again, y'all know I always say all this like out of experience. A lot of us also, that's where a lot of settling comes in. How many of us are either this person or know of somebody who is consistently complaining and talking shit about whoever's person in their life, but they keep them there? Man, well, he, then she, and hey, and my mom and dad, and again, it doesn't matter the relationship. It could be family, blood, non-blood, friend, romantic, baby daddy, baby mommy, don't matter. Married, who you're married to. How many of us are either that person or hear those stories of you're just talking about just anger? Because remember, let's go back to this scripture. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Keep your mouth free of perversity. Keep corrupt talk from your mouth. You're not even acting in love anymore. Because if you love somebody and you cared for somebody, anger and resentment aside, you would not be talking shit. You know what I mean? I mean to cuss. Sorry, I don't work on that. But like, meaning, y'all know these conversations where you're just angry with somebody. You talking about everything you don't like about them and all this stuff, but yet this is somebody you still actively decide to keep in your life. So now you're mad. And now you're even more frustrated because you want this person to show up a certain way, or you want things to change, and nothing is happening. So at that point, you're choosing to live in hell. You're choosing that for your life. Nobody else is. Which makes you then even more resentful because you see other people who have freedom. You see other people who are in happy relationships, or you see or you see other people who are making it work, and now you're mad because that's not you. You want the cute family and you want things to work out and da da da, but that's not happening for you. Again, that's a huge other way that we settle, that people settle. That's why, again, above all else, you have to guard your heart. If you are living with a hardened heart, I don't care if it wasn't your fault, it's your responsibility. It is your responsibility to soften your heart. You can only do that with Jesus, right? Who else? You know what? Nothing else can soften our heart but Him. So y'all understand that, right? That's the only way we even live with soft hearts is Him. It's not us. So if you are living with a hardened heart because of resentment, that is 100% on you. You are choosing to live with that and you are choosing to deal with that. And a lot of people, again, where a lot of people fall short is they would just rather stick in that anger and just settle instead of doing the actual harder work to forgive, because to forgive, to separate yourself, to really live Christ like, that's the hard part. And that's why this road is narrow. It is hard to have a soft heart. People think, oh, walk with Christ, it's just it's easy, you're just joyful and happy, but you know how much work it takes to live by the fruit of the Spirit. It's not easy. We know the fruit of the Spirit is what? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. You think that's easy? You think living in God's Spirit is easy? No, we're not God. We're human. That's why we have the example that we do. That's why we have the playbook that we do. That's why we have the relationship that we do. That's why we can talk to the Lord. That's why we can pray over our transformation. That's why we can do these things. But it's not easy to live by the fruit of the Spirit. If that was easy, everyone would be doing it. But that's the journey. That's what this walk is. The whole point, right? With our walk in Christianity, it's not about that we are never going to be Jesus. We are never going to be God, period. Because we're humans, right? But the thing is we know what the blueprint is, and we know what to be like. We know the kind of heart to have, the kind of mind to have in order to live this life out in the best way that we can. We know this life is going to come with heartbreak and struggles and suffering and all that stuff because we are in hell's, we are in the devil's playground. So while we're in the devil's playground, we're being equipped with the best way that we can live a softened heart. Going back to the resentful thing, right? If you are living with this hardened heart, even if it has to do with resentfulness, that is 100% on you. And it is your journey and it is your work that you have to put in to soften your heart. Nobody is going to soften your heart for you. It is just by the power of the Holy Spirit. Nobody can soften your heart. People can influence you, people can speak life into you, pray over you, all those things, but nobody can soften your heart but the Holy Spirit. If you are all caught up, if you are just spending your time and your days and your mind and your heart, if you are just spending all of your energy, right, in the gossiping, not watching, like not keeping your mouth shut, like just being in the chaos, right? Like being angry, being bitter, just staying in this hell you're creating for yourself, you are robbing yourself. God can't really do much with that. I mean, we know God is God, but like, and of course, divine intervention can happen anytime, but you have to be open to it. That is where forgiveness comes in. And at the end of the day, nobody wants to, at the end of the day, you really don't want to forgive that person. Because if you really wanted to forgive that person, you would immediately start working with God like yesterday. A lot of people, because and then that's where that pride comes in. What comes with resentment, 10 out of 10 is also pride. You do want that person to suffer. You don't want that person to be happy. You talk about you say you want things, you better know you don't. Because then what happens is even when that person tries or even when that something changes, you're still pissed off. And you don't, it's like you and then you start sabotaging things because you're still so angry. So you're creating this like hell for yourself. Forgiveness is only, you can only truly really work through that and get through that with your relationship with God. There's not a book, there is not a person, there is not an influencer, there is not a TikTok, there is not a podcast, there is not a sermon, there is nothing that's going to truly teach you about forgiveness outside of you genuinely asking God to show you and to work that in your heart and in your mind. You know what I'm saying? You have to rework how you see people and how you see yourself in this world with other people, because yes, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. There is this grace. That's why I'm telling God's grace, right? The grace and mercy he shows us. Oh, we will always fall short. Oh my, we can't even in comparison that we will never ever be able to have grace and mercy how he does. But again, we know that we try our best to learn how and to actually put it in motion. You could say you follow Christ all day. I mean, you could call yourself a Christian all day, right? We could sit here, read the Bible, do the stuff like that, but you are still with a hardened heart and you are still angry at people, like if you still don't know how to do relationship well with people, you are still falling short. Because like I always say, our two greatest commandments is to love him with all our heart, mind, body, and soul, and love others. We have got to learn how to love others. That is a command. Those are the two greatest commandments. And every other commandment hangs on those two. How the Bible says, how John says, once Jesus says, if y'all do those two things, everything else falls on that. Everything, when you are like me, when you are living by the fruit of the Spirit, when you do have a softened heart, everything else naturally comes in order because you are not living by your flesh and you are not living in the chaos. So yes, when you are actually operating out of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, all those things, guess what you're not sowing? You're not sowing anger. You're not sowing chaos. You're not sowing jealousy. You're not sowing lust. You're not sowing these worldly things. Again, we're not perfect. We're always going to fall short. So we're never going to be 100% every day. Just fruit of the spirit radiating 25:8, no. But the big things that like have a hold on your life, like anger, like resentfulness and lust, like those big emotions, those big traps, offense, those big things is what you want to make sure that you have under control, because that those things are the quickest things that separate us from God, because all those traps are like traps for a reason. That's the stuff that you become a slave to, that you stay stuck in, that you never come out of, that then pours into other people. You're so resentful at the first girl, first man who broke your heart. Guess what? Now you go and you hurt every other person that comes in your life because of that. So everything is a domino effect. You know the enemy loves that. It takes, oh, I gotta offend you one time. Now you pissed at every single person. I just have to break your heart one time, and now every man is gonna pay for it. Oh, I just have to break your heart one time, now every woman's gonna pay for it. Oh, I just need that bank teller to offend you one time, and you'll never, now you piss off at every bank teller. Like it's y'all see how easy it takes. One experience where you are hurt, or it takes one experience where you were rejected, or you know, neglected, or whatever the case, for that to sit with you and you to take that to every other person. But that is not what we are told to do. We have to love others, right? Like that love, and you can't love others unless you are loving the Lord with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. Because when you are going back, let's bring it back again, Psalm 4:23 to 25. This is not the scripture itself, but going back down to the study, put boundaries on your desires. Don't go after everything you see. Look straight ahead. Keep your eyes fixed on your goal and don't get sidetracked on detours that lead to sin. Do not get sidetracked. Like, don't, you have to just stay focused. Again, when you're loving the Lord with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, then remember I said this last Bible study, because y'all know I'm a visual person, how like genuinely I was explaining like the cross, how you have a vertical relationship and your horizontal relationship. When you truly like seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, when you truly keep your eyes fixated on him, when you truly love the Lord with all your mind, heart, body, and soul, it goes out to others. Y'all, it never fails. Any issue I have vertical, it reflects horizontal. Anytime I'm pissed off at God, anytime I have trust issues with God, anytime I'm resentful with God, anytime I'm dealing with a heart to heart, it goes out, it goes to my vertical. You can feel it in my relationships. But when me, like when I am like, I wouldn't even say just spiritually, but when I am in, like for example, when I am in the most safe, trusted state, I don't even care what, there is no offense that's in my heart, because I'm so focused on God and I trust him so much and he has my entire heart. I'm not even I don't could care less what anybody does to me, because I feel so I feel like I'm in his arms. Like, you know, I'm literally look like y'all can literally cannot touch me. Do y'all know what I mean? But it's because when I'm in those times in life, that when you are feeling the most safe, it just everything affects, like every the way, or the times, like I'm sure if I'm dealing with, if I'm dealing with trust issues, if I'm having an issue trusting him, I'm not trusting nobody in my life. Like it's just, and it's not necessarily always like that where it's like a complete 100% of reflection, like 99.9% of it is, but it's one of those things where you you do not want anybody to hijack your mind and hijack your heart. Like, it's just not worth it. Because as soon as someone hijacks your mind, as soon as the circumstance hijacks your mind or your heart, what we were talking about earlier, our little garden, right? As soon as you see a weed or as soon as you see a flower dying, in order for you to tend to it, you need to make sure you are tending to God first. That's the best way to tend to your garden. Tend to yourself is tending to God. To know yourself and love yourself is to know God and love God. We're all, you know what I'm saying? The Holy Spirit dwells in us. That's why it is so important. And again, that's why the whole topic is this, like how you focus back on yourself. Like that's what that means. That is how you tend to yourself. Like that is that self-love. You don't, when you feel that purity in your heart and you feel it open, right? You don't even, as soon as something even affect, like as soon as you start to feel like something, like you are resenting something, oh, you back away from it immediately. So going, I had to learn that. So this is already, I don't deal with resentfulness how I used to at all, at all. I used to struggle with resentfulness so hard, so bad. Unforgiveness, all that stuff, right? I used to struggle with it bad. But it gets to a point where you, as soon as you even start to feel that you're resenting somebody, to either you need to get good at letting people go and cutting that off and not even entertaining that, depending on the circumstance, or is an opportunity for you to learn how to not be so prideful and how to communicate. So either way, it is a win for you, meaning you're either going to show up with a Christ-like heart and do what needs to be done so that you are not being resentful. Because again, resentfulness, that could be a lack of balance. Like, you have to know yourself. If you lack boundaries and you don't know how to say no and you're saying yes to everybody, why are you pissed off that you're not pouring into yourself? You're the one who's deciding to pour into everybody else and not you. That's a you thing. It's not them. But that also comes with getting to know you. If you have a lack of boundaries and you let every man sleep with you the first night, don't be pissed off and don't be hurt later down the line when nobody wants to commit to you. When there's a lack of boundaries and you are letting any person, any first friend that you meet just know all about you and all your information, like, don't be surprised when people, when you, if you're like, you're hearing people gossip about you or whatever the case may be. So you have to understand who you are and how you show up in life. And you have to also understand, like, if it's you who's creating the resentfulness problem, then get better at communicating. So put up a boundary when it comes to sex. So, it don't be so quick to just create a friendship out of desperation. Like, take your time, like, change things up. Hold on. Yeah, 31:30. Like, you have to look at those things, and again, you cannot be the victim. You have to say, hey, like, this is where I fall short. If you're the reason, if you're a people pleaser, again, if you're a people pleaser because of an insecurity, grow up. Like, get you have to grow out of that. Like, there are some things that gets to a point where you truly, like, grow up in life, in the sense of, like, you just stop acting like that, like, stop acting like a victim. So, like, fix it. And again, you're creating that resentfulness in you. It's not that person. You're the one acting like that. If you know you're a doormat, don't be mad when everyone's using you. Stop letting them use you. It's one of those things where it's like, you gotta stop the behavior where it starts, and it genuinely starts with you, right? So again, if you are falling into this resentfulness, but you know it's coming from you, so speak up. Well, I don't know how to advocate for myself. I don't, well, learn. You know what I mean? Like, again, this is all the stuff that you take with God. Well, I'm just not, I feel like everyone around me is, to say, dating, they just always, like, beat me down. Get away from them. Don't tolerate somebody who puts you down. Don't tolerate somebody who disrespects you. Well, that's all I know. Again, grow up, grow out of that. Well, that's just, that's all I know. Like, oh, I saw my dad and my mom did it. Okay. Like, at some point, you really do have to take, again, you have to take responsibility if you have a hardened heart, to soften it. Soft hearts always win. I had made this post. Well, it was a TikTok, but I already posted it on my Instagram, and it was so sweet. And it was just a quote. It wasn't like it was like a video, a TikTok video. But it says that it's like, I do not want to butcher this because it's so good. But while I pull that up, somebody had commented on that post, and they were like, so I remember, because the posts were super cute. I mean, the where am I? Hold on. How do I get to my page? Oh, and I'm sure y'all seen this because it's like viral, and then it went like viral on Insta too. But I posted it. It says, Jesus didn't love cautiously to avoid pain. He loved fully because his heart was anchored in God, not in people's ability to handle it. And then somebody had notated, they were like, I read somewhere that it is in the softest corners of your heart in which Jesus likes to reside, and that alone may be more forgiving and accepting of his gullible heart, to remain soft and kind despite circumstances that should have hardened it. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Say that one more time. Jesus didn't love cautiously to avoid pain. He loved fully because his heart was anchored in God, not in people's ability to handle it. Soft hearts always win. I feel like I'm only here, like, Oh no, put it back. I haven't seen y'all in so long. Once again, soft hearts always win. And a soft heart does not mean doormat and no boundaries and a people pleaser. That's not what a soft heart is. Jesus did not love cautiously to avoid pain. He loved fully because his heart was anchored in God, not in people's ability to handle it. Like, oh my God. Wow. I love that. Congrats, girl. That makes me so happy. I love seeing people's lives improve. So, again, you're responsible for. Good. I'm so happy. I love breakthroughs. See? Y'all got to talk to me one on one. We love a breakthrough. That makes me so happy. I'm happy to hear that. Um, it hurts and it's painful, but you are 100% responsible for softening your heart. And you can only do that again. You can only do that with the help of the Holy Spirit. But you have to want that for yourself. When it comes to the unforgiveness and when it comes to things like that, because again, if you're tolerating it, if there's someone in your life, if there's an active relationship in your life that you keep showing up for, that you keep being resentful in, that's 100% on you. So then end it. So then leave. Like that, then that relationship needs to go. If you decide it needs to stay and it's important enough to stay, well, then that's where your Christ-like heart needs to come in. And at that point, you can't lose, because again, even if you did your best to save that relationship, then walk away. Then don't force it. All you can do is show up in the most loving way that you can. Again, going back to that quote, wherever this was, again, it was a TikTok I found and I reposted it on my Instagram. Jesus didn't love cautiously to avoid pain. He loved fully because his heart was anchored in God. So keep loving fully. Those are our two greatest commandments. You love the Lord when your heart is anchored in God. That's when you can love fully. When your heart is anchored in God, you don't care about rejection, because that rejection's not a thing to you. You know what I'm saying? When your heart is anchored in God, you don't care if something doesn't work out. That's not to say you're not human and you're not going to experience real things, right? Like, that's not saying that you're just like going to be the most nonchalant, unbothered queen, but kinda. Like, when your heart is anchored in God, you don't dwell how you don't get offended easily. You don't hold resentment for people. Like, you see things for what they are, and you always remember, again, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, and you also know that you're not perfect either, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a human being human, and you decide, right? You create your boundaries, and you grow your garden. Going back to that analogy, going back to the me again, like being a visual person and explaining that garden, the perfect example. Going back, if y'all were here hearing about the garden, you can't sit here, right? And it's like you looking at a flower that's dying and you're just sitting there complaining how ugly it is. Either cut that flower out, either uproot it and it gotta go, or nurture it. Nurture it with a heart anchored in God. And if at that point, again, nothing changes, then that's fine. You didn't lose. You were just having a heart anchored in God. And if at that point that person is still da 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 da, okay, then let it go. But you can't stay in things, not take accountability, and then complain or continue being hurt because you're being a victim and you're creating your own hell for yourself. That is resentment with somebody who is in your life. Like, that is somebody, if you are having resentment with somebody who is actively in your life. When it comes to forgiving them, when it comes to forgiveness, in my experience, again, I know again, we haven't, Forgiveness will definitely probably be a Bible study on its own, like I said, maybe tomorrow. But real quickly, when it comes to forgiveness, really what they say is so true. Like it does not erase a wrong. It doesn't make things right. It doesn't make things fair, and it doesn't make things just. The only time anything will be justified is when Jesus comes back, right? Forgiveness doesn't justify anything. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't, take away how it affected your brain and how it affected your heart. None of that. Forgiveness doesn't poof them out of your life. It doesn't kill them, right? Because some people get real wicked and want God to be Old Testament on people. Like it doesn't. Forgiveness doesn't. As much as you want them to suffer and pay, sometimes forgiveness doesn't mean that. So forgiveness doesn't mean they're going to have a hard life and suffer and pay how you did, right? Forgiveness, again, it's not fair. It's not just. It's not. Nothing will ever make you feel good about pain that was done to you. Again, just in my own personal experience, outside of a heart that is anchored in God. When you focus on your life in totality, and when you understand that God created you for a purpose that is big, when you know it's just bigger than you and it's not about you, and everyone is genuinely just being used as a vessel, to do God's work in different ways, when you know it is bigger than you, right? That you are genuinely just in a temporary world. Like we are literally, and the Bible says we're all just aliens here. Like when you take your brain, but when you just look bigger, huger picture, when you take a look outside of the offense and outside of that person and outside of the relationship, when you just open your eyes up to something bigger than that, you understand that everything truly is still working out together for his good, no matter how. Two things are either happening. Either the hurt and pain that is being done to you, it is either truly going to teach you more about God, as crazy, like it's either going to truly teach you more about him, or you are going to continue to stay in it and you are suffering yourself. So it's two ways. That's it. When it comes to the pain and suffering that you deal with, when it comes to other humans, again, we live in a fallen world and we live in the devil's playground. And for whatever reason, people still get shocked when bad things happen and suffering happens and bad relationships happen and abuse happens and all these things. That's the world we live in. It's gonna happen. We're not we're not in a perfect world. We're in an evil, disgusting world. We are in the devil's playground. There is nothing perfect about this world at all. So if you're taking even just personal relationships, yeah, somebody's gonna have you effed up. Yeah, somebody's gonna hurt your feelings. Yes, somebody is gonna crush your spirit. Why do you think the Bible tells us he is close to the brokenhearted and crushed in spirit? Because guess what? Your heart is going to break and your spirit is going to be crushed at some point. That sounds harsh and it sounds bad, but it's life. And I think there's this ignorant, like the Bible says, he is near to those who are crushed in spirit and brokenhearted. Why would you think Jesus is just, it doesn't say, well, for those who go through a heartbreak, just no, you're gonna get heartbroken. And there are gonna be times where your spirit is crushed because of somebody or a circumstance. So when it happens, don't act all like, oh my God, how could this man leave? How could I hurt I mean, what else? Going back to our garden, right? So either you weren't doing something, it takes two to tango. So either you weren't doing something appropriately on your end, or you were keeping yourself in a situation you had no business in. It's either the consequences of your action, or it's character development. That's it. There's no in between. It's either God's character development, or it's just your circumstances. Like you really, I mean, truly, you can't cry about being a single mom if you knew you were having unprotected sex with people who were not suitable for you. Like things like that. You know what I mean? Like life is hard, circumstances are hard. Yes, like you can two things can be true, but that's why that accountability is so. Let's take me for example, right? Imagine I spent my entire life hating the father of my child. Let's do an example. Imagine I spent my entire life hating and being resentful my son's dad, right? And because I hated him and resented him, I was like F man, and I never got married and I just stayed single and bitter all over a man who I chose to sleep with unprotected. Like, come on. Like, it's one of those things where we got to be like so for real. Imagine you let somebody who you chose in your life, right, to hijack your mind for your entire life. It does not matter what that man has done. It does not matter what issues we have faced. It does not matter how hard the journey was at times with the co-parenting and did it. I laid down with that man. It's and we so quickly forget. I think that's why like baby mama and baby daddy stories just are funny to me because it's like you can't. And mind you, also a product of that. Like you again, that accountability and your garden and what it looks like, either let God work on you and embrace it if he needs to work on you. Because there are some things, right? There are some relationships that are challenging. Like, for example, I've experienced both. I have been in relationships that are challenging for a reason because I'm supposed to be developed. Again, iron sharpens iron, right? I have been in very challenging relationships that have made me better, that have made that person better. And we were meant to be in each other's life to continue sharpening each other and making each other better. Those are still challenging. It's not saying those are easy. Those aren't the most fun. Those come with honest questions, with hard conversations. Those come with a lot of vulnerability. Those comes with growing up and maturing in the way you communicate with somebody. That's not fun either. But then there's also, right, going back to like when you are being resentful and you have a hardened heart over something that you are actively deciding to keep in your life. Sometimes you have to choose your heart. Sometimes you have to choose your heart. And as much like, it's also one of those things too with knowing that, I guess, kind of going back to like the only way that you can get past forgiveness, it doesn't matter again who it is, family, friends, da, da, da. The only way you get through forgiveness, or the only way that you can forgive somebody, is you just have to understand like it's bigger than you, and everything really did happen for a reason. So what did you learn out of it? Did you and if you're not going to choose to sit there and focus on what God did for you and why he did that for you, right? Then you're just settling for it. In order, we'll just take my son's dad as a small example, and then I can speak on like the family thing. It got to a point where and I'm saying this again out of experience, where I had to sit down and be like, hey, God, my family, it broke, right? I don't have my family. This is what happened, blah, blah, blah. I need you to work with me. I need you to show me that none of this was done in vain and the right decision was made, right? Because it's been years now, but this is like the least thing I talk about on social media. I talk the least about that journey and co-parenting and the breakup and stuff like that. But that was a journey. That was a journey. My son's going to be 10 now. So like that's a decade of a lot going on with somebody. And it gets to a point where you can't, you have to choose your heart. I could have stayed and been either stay and be miserable or leave and be miserable. Like I'd be damned if it was both. Because a lot of times too, you also can't, what do I look like complaining? Okay, well then I just should have stayed. Like it's either way. The accountability is so important. And if you have when I had to work through my resentfulness in my heart, not only when I had to work through my grief, when I had to work through my anger and all that stuff, I could not do it with just me. And you can't do it with just you. You have to truly ask God, hey, this is the circumstance that happened in my life. Why the hell? Why me? Like again, if you do not want to sit in it and harp in it and be a victim, then you need to genuinely work with God and tell him he's the author of your life, you guys. He is the author of our life. What makes you think you can't talk to him about your story? is and what's been written and what's going on. He is the author of our life. Ask him about your life. Hey, why is it that I became a single mom? Outside of, right, outside of dumb decisions, okay, and having sex unprotected, outside of just natural, consequences to your actions, right? There could have been a storyline where we worked and it worked out and we had a beautiful family and we beat the odds because that's the direction it was going. We didn't break up. To anyone who knows this, I don't think anyone really knows the story because it's so old now. But like we didn't break up until 5 years in. I mean, it took a while. When ask God about your life, He's the one who wrote it. Hey, if this is gonna be my life, if I am gonna be a single mom, just help me to navigate this. If this isn't going to get reconciled and this is the, hey, even if this is the consequence of my life, hey, now I'm a single mom, help me to navigate this. And what am I learning out of this? And then you move and then you move on with your life versus me sitting here and spending my entire life hating his dad and then hating men. There are so many women and men like that. You let one person ruin your entire life. That is so foolish. And that goes against what we're called to do. Now I'm so grateful. I am everything I've gone through, it has truly worked out. Like the way the pieces come together when you keep focusing on what God is doing for you, not to you, but what God is doing for you and how He really is working everything out. You can so easily see and be so grateful for how things are moving, no matter how bad it looks. None of us asked to be here. Nobody was asked to be born. I didn't know my biological mom. I didn't ask to be born in a damn broken ass family. I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask to go through daddy issues and mommy issues and abandonment issues. You think I was just like, oh yeah, I would love abandonment issues? No, I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. Yeah, I didn't ask to have to like unheal, like to have to heal and unlearn everything that happened in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't ask for anxious attachment and abandonment issues. Like I didn't want all that. I didn't ask for all that, but that's just how my life turned out. That's how I was treated. That's how the adults handled me in life. That's how, my biological mom, my dad, like that is how they started this family. It was chaotic. And I was in the middle of a war between them. Like I didn't ask for that, you know? So everyone has a sad story. I say this all the time. Everyone has a sad story. It is what it is. Like, we need to truly get over it. There's a point where you got to grow up and you got to stop blaming everybody. It sucks, right? Like again, but nobody asked to be here, and it's going to be hard to some capacity. And again, it's your relationship with yourself is the most important. You are the one that has to live with a heart and heart. Nobody else. This is also where compassion comes in. As somebody whose heart is anchored in God, I have so much compassion for others who don't. This is going to sound messed up, maybe. I don't know how to word this in the best way. I don't mean this in like a egocentric way. I mean this in a very like genuine, loving, compassionate way. As somebody who has a soft heart and who is anchored in God, right? It is so easy for me to live and love people and just be unapologetic. There's so many good things to that. I don't worry about, I'm not pissed off at the world. I'm not pissed. Nobody, not one person is hijacked my mind or has control over mine and my heart. I'm so grateful for that. But when I see others who don't have that, I have compassion for them. Because I would much rather, like, y'all have it worse than me, I promise you. And, like, okay, when I think about, we'll use my biological mom for example, right? If y'all know the story and the testimony to that, she kicked me out. It was traumatic. It was so hurtful. She abandoned me twice, and that was really hard. I mean, this is like my mom. That was, as a daughter, as a child, that was one of the most painful experiences I've ever had. I've had a lot of painful experiences. That was one of the most painful experiences. She left such a mark on me in my heart that it could have ruined me forever, right? When my biological mom, when she kicked me out, when she, it's just when that ended, I also knew the things she struggled with, and I also knew basically what all her flaws were, and she didn't know, she also like didn't know Jesus. So like, as much as my flesh and as much as logically I wanted to hate her and be so, I mean, and all that's valid, all that's real. But what always brings me back to that forgiveness point and what always keeps my heart soft towards her, I guess you could say, is this compassion, knowing that, wow, she has spent her whole life in hell, basically, and I have found freedom. Does that make sense? So I don't take it personally, and I don't like, and this applies to anybody I've had to work with forgiveness through, right? Even when it comes to like my son's dad. I'm not gonna put my son's dad business out there, but just know the life that ended up for him, I would not want for myself. Mm-mm. The way his life ended up, and it hurts me so much because this was somebody who I loved. So somebody who, of course, you care for, it's hard to see them not hit their potential and just fall into more foolishness. And it's hard to see. And so, but I have compassion because honestly, I would not want that for myself. Does this make sense? Like, I don't have no beef with nobody. I'm not jealous. I'm not resentful. I'm not hard towards anybody because no one has the life nobody has the heart and life and mind that I want, that I desire, because mine is anchored in God. Do y'all know what I mean? I cannot be offended and let somebody have a hold of my mind and my heart that, one, doesn't even know God. That's for one. But even if they did, who is living a life that's not even a life that I desire to live? Why is somebody who cares about her character and cares about her heart be resentful and be jealous and be pissed off about somebody who's not even living like that? That's what I'm saying. Like, how, kind of how I was saying earlier, like that's kind of like unbothered feeling. Again, this doesn't mean we're not human. It doesn't mean we get pissed off. I was pissed off earlier because somebody did say thank you when they opened the door. When I opened the door for them. And I was like, man. So like life happens and little offenses happen. And yeah, but we're talking like big, we're talking about, again, those big things that have a hold on you. All of my exes, even going through that, y'all, I've had some connections, all right? I've loved people. I love people deep. I have loved men so deeply. And there were so many men I could have. So I've had amazing connections in my life. Just know this, right? It was so hard to break these connections, but it got to a point where I wouldn't want their life and I wouldn't want, no one's appealing to me. Does this make sense? Like, unless you're a flower in my garden, right? We're talking about the garden. You know who appeals to me? The flowers in my garden, because this is my garden. Anything outside, right? Like anything outside of my garden, it doesn't even appeal to me. All the men that have been in my life, who I used to cry, be crying, throwing up on the floor, sitting in the paragraphs. These people who I was so connected with that I swore I would die without. Oh my God. These connections that I've had that were so deep and I thought were just my lifeline. Even going back to my son's dad, who, this is my family, right? Who I had a house with, who I had a baby with, like these very strong, intimate connections, these things, these lives that I've created with people. Nobody exists in my life anymore. They're not, no, none of those, they don't exist. They're not a part of my reality anymore. And imagine I just let that stick with me when they're not even in my life. That's the kind of like the second part. Letting somebody, you having, so you know how we talked about like having resentful with somebody actively in your life, perfectly like transitioning into that to this. Okay, then you have the opposite. When you have resent over someone who's not even in your life at that point, dude, it's you got like, you are true. I mean, it's, you are living in a different kind of hell because you are actively choosing to keep somebody present in your life when they're not even there. That is a you thing. I mean, the other thing is a you thing too. But keeping somebody alive in your heart and your mind, letting somebody continue to hijack you when they're not even physically in your life. I personally want better for you, and God wants better for you. Like, this is, you don't, having someone take a hold on you like that for what? You going back to this, like, again, what I've had, the process I've had to go through to let some of these people go. And mind you, some of these men done piss me off, right? I mean, obviously nothing beats my son's dad. But like some connections I've had in my life, of course, I wanted to be like, no, that's not fair. And you don't, because again, when you are focused on this bigger picture of how God is using you, how does he want to use you? How does he want to create your story, and how do you make an impact in everyone's story? This is all one big story, and we're all colliding with each other. People come and go. So what relevance is that to you and God? To every, it got to the point where I've literally prayed up. I have prayed amazing things over every man in my life, and that is again a true heart anchored in God. There was no resentful, and mind you, again, that does not mean I haven't gone through the negative emotions, that I haven't gone through phases of jealousy and rage and anxiousness and heartbreak and pain and all that stuff, right? Like that doesn't mean that didn't exist. But now, again, these people who you think you're like not gonna survive without, and you think are like the one, or you think that like, whatever, like it gets to a point where if they're no like the forgiveness I had to work through to let everybody go out of my heart, like that is what forgiveness does. How I was saying earlier that forgiveness doesn't erase it, it doesn't it just it allows people to stop having your mind and your heart because you have truly let them go. You said, you know what, God, wherever we meant to cross paths, we cross paths. If it was character relevant, cool. I'll know better for next time. If it was, a consequence to my action, cool. I'll never have sex unprotected again. Regardless, it lands on you. Either God's making you big, you're either going to be literally better from it, or you're going to learn from your consequence, or you're not going to learn from your consequence and you're going to keep the cycle going. That's where accountability comes in. It only goes two ways. Either be better and do better, or you're going to keep the cycle going. But that's on you. That's 100% your decision to make. It's 100% your decision to make. So again, with that resentfulness of somebody who is not, with a hardened heart over somebody who is not in your life, hey God, this person's not in my life. I'm really, really, really struggling. But instead of me holding on to this resentment and this hurt and this pain, can we talk through why I have this and how I can let it go and what you're teaching me from this? Because it's pissing me off. And I don't want them to hijack my mind and my heart anymore. Now, at this point, all my ex, if I were to see any of my ex, anyone who I've ever slept with or had an emotional connection to, if I were to ever want into them, there would not be this like pit in my stomach. And if I saw them all married with babies, hell yeah, I love that for you guys. Because again, when your heart is anchored in God, you understand you can't lose. You don't lose anything. I didn't lose anybody. I experienced people and people experienced me. But even this loss of like this mourning, at some point you do have to mourn and move. And guess what? I'll probably find somebody else and love them, or even friends, whether it is friend or romance. Like that happens. But again, like that's why you keep your heart open so you continue gaining these new experiences and you can continue finding new connections that teach you things so you can continue being anchored in God. And once you do that, and once you work on that, going back again to the scripture that we're in, you get better at boundaries. You get better at putting boundaries around your desires, and you get better at guarding your heart because you get wiser. You learn, you stop carrying. You learn to care and not carry people. You learn to love just because you're a loving heart without getting attached. You learn to love somebody without getting trauma bonded. Again, you learn to care for somebody without carrying their burdens and being a people pleaser. Like this stuff comes with time. But it wouldn't come. This stuff only comes when you decide to put in the work for yourself and be grounded and have a foundation and your heart be anchored and not so easily influenced and pulled by everybody. When you are moving in confidence, when you are moving in security, when you have your identity, when you are genuinely like really living out the fruit of the spirit, when you have this love and joy and peace and patience and kindness, when you are truly patient with people, you are really kind to people, no matter how much they piss. You know how many times I be having to be like, I gotta literally pray for kindness towards my son's dad. Like it's just so like that. Again, the fruit of the spirit is not easy. It's very hard work, but it just makes you sleep better at night, knowing that you're doing your job. Like you sleep better at night. We want to be a good and faithful servant, right? You know how good it feels to know, hey, you know what, God, today I did my best to carry my cross. I loved you with all my heart, my body, and soul. And I think I loved others as well as I could. Yes, that girl cut me off. Yes, I go and say thank you. And it pissed me off a little bit, but you know what? Da da da. Like it makes you feel better. You know how at peace you are and like how much joy you have. You're not tripping over anybody or anything. Like that is the kind of freedom that we are commanded to live in. And that is the kind of freedom that God has for us. Does that make sense? Like we are commanded to live in that freedom, and that freedom is so possible. Everybody reaps what they sow, and everybody is going to have their own consequences to suffer. Not everyone's going to hurt. I am a serial cheater. I'm bringing that up for a reason. I've talked about that. I've been so open about that in the past. This is important, and I want to say this. I'll say this again to say, and people again with this whole victim mindset, people like to play it like in my life, people have done horrible things to me, but I've also done horrible shit to people. Like I've also not been the best to people with cheating, all that stuff. You know how that made it worse for me. You know how much more healing I had to do because I was so paranoid. Like it makes it so, like that's why I'm saying, like everyone, it's just so much easier when everyone minds their business and you don't know, like everyone's gonna reap what they sow. So you have to also, with that resentment and that pride, wanting to, that's why the Lord says vengeance is his. He says vengeance is mine, don't even worry about it. Hurt people, they're going to hurt people, and everyone's a different person and different stories. There are some stories where I'm the hero, there's some stories where I'm the villain, there's some stories where I'm the victim, there's some stories where I'm the enemy. Everyone's story is so different. Everyone's experience of you is so different. Of course, the woman, the vanity that shows up who knows Jesus and is more Christ-like, of course she's so much better and kinder and patient and all that stuff versus somebody else who was like wild and had a heavy heart and was just angry and bitter all the time. Like, of course. So everyone's gonna have a different experience. Mm, okay, 215, 220. Everyone's gonna have a different experience. And it's like you can't worry about, like you have to worry about your life and what you're reaping and what you're sowing. Don't worry about other people. You do not know you will never know what's going on behind closed doors. You do not know how God is working on somebody, but he's going to work on them just like he's going to work on you. So it's like that's why you can't be so hyper focused on how people hurt you and the revenge you want on them and what they need to feel like and how to make it even and how to make it fair and how to make it just. It's not for you to handle at all. It is for you to learn, because again, we have to be good at relationship. It is for you to learn either that character development or it's a pattern you need to stop. Going back to again our garden, your garden, visualize that. Like visualize that. And you are in charge of your garden. Nobody else, you're not looking at no one, nobody is sustaining your garden. Only you are. You look around. And if you don't like what you see, that is on you. And God loves us so dearly, is so deeply. Of course, he wants us to have a heart like his. So if you are wanting to have a more fruitful life, of course, he's going to give you that. He wants to give you that, but he wants you to want that. So if you're looking at your garden and there is a flower, aka a person, who is dying, the flower is dying, excuse me, and you're not, and it's because you have resentment and you're not taking care of it, right? But you want it to grow. Okay, well, either again, uproot that flower, throw it away, or you need to sit with God and you say, hey, you've got to teach me how to have a forgiving heart, or you need to teach me about patience because I do not know. You have to put in that work to work with him. But in order to do that, you need to know him. You need to read. You need to, it's like you need to have that active, intimate relationship. Because it is something you have to work on all the time. I know at a drop of a hat all the things I always have to work on all the time. And that's not to like say like we're just always like, oh, like we're gonna spend our whole life like as a self-development course, but it's like it's good to know what you struggle with and to be honest about it. Like I know I get offended easily, right? We've talked about this before. So earlier, like when I was like texting my friend, it was somebody we knew anyway. I was like, next time I see her, I'm not saying hi. And I was like, let me chill. You know what I mean? Like it's when you know you're able to catch yourself before anything even starts. I, as a single mom, this is something I've learned a long time ago too. As a single mother, oh, my resentment threshold is I it is so easy for me to resent somebody, especially a man, because I live in a very like masculine state and I'm always providing and I'm always working and I'm always doing. If somebody's even at my house, this is a perfect example. Let me say this. Let me say this. We'll start with the positive. Now we're talking about my garden. We're talking about my specific garden. This is I need y'all to hear this. I need y'all to hear this. We're talking about my specific garden, right? If y'all missed the analogy earlier, my garden and my flowers are the people in my life. So when any of my flowers are in my home, everything's getting taken care of. My dishes are getting washed, trash is being thrown. They are actively helping me. They are all acts of service. Nobody comes in my house and just watches me work, right? Does that make sense? These are my flowers. I am so, but it got to a point where I was so resentful and I was so tired of people that if somebody even came into my, not this one, but if somebody came into my space and just watched me do something, I would immediately get pissed off. If somebody watched me wash dishes and did not offer to help, like I would immediately get pissed off because I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so tired as a single mom because I do everything. Does this make sense? It was so easy for me to resent people, to resent friends, to resent men, especially men. Oh my God. But guess what? I chose to be around friends and women and men who were not considerate, who did not have kids, or who did not have that kind of service mindset. Do you know what I'm saying? And that was on me. So guess what happened when I switched to my garden and planted new flowers? Now I'm surrounded by people who know acts of service and who love to serve. So now when it's not even something I asked for. It's a God thing. I prayed for this. I had so much hurt and pain and resentfulness in my heart, and I was so tired of doing it by myself. But God showed me you're choosing people that don't know how to help you. I want to send you people and I want to love you through other people, but you keep keeping yourself around people who do you no service. You are draining yourself and now you're pissed off. And I want to help you, but you're holding on to these people so bad. I need you to let them go so I can make room for new people. I could literally cry thinking about it. And now, again, this is like years in the making. But now my garden, if you're not even, if I meet you, like when it comes to who is entangled in my life, if you are not somebody who automatically knows how to show up for people in like a specific way, it's a no for me. I just already know it's not going to work out. Friendship, man, whatever. The people who I want around me, they need to be considerate. They need to be considerate. They need to not be scared of like hard work. There's so many different things. They need to see and hear. They cannot be selfish in the sense of like self-centered. You know what I'm saying? And so that helped my life tremendously because now I'm around people where they do a service for me. So it makes me want to pour into them. And it's truly like an overflow of us just all flowing into each other. There's no more me just pissed off because I feel like people aren't showing up for me, but I don't know how to advocate for myself. I made that very clear with new people who were in my life. I was like, hey, this is, da da da. Like, again, that's where boundaries and these things come in. All the learning process. So, which sidebar? Yes, everything, all the lives always get reposted on YouTube. Okay, like 10 more minutes. Sorry. LOL. Literally speaking of when I got offended earlier, my friend was like, because I told her, I said, let me chill. I do get offended easily, LOL. I was like, when I catch you, Ricky, because that pissed me off. Because why would you not say thank you? That's another thing. Manners, like that's what I'm saying. Like you learn about yourself. So don't have people around you who, if you don't like somebody who doesn't have manners, Don't have someone around you who doesn't like manners. Like, again, sounds so simple and it sounds so elementary, but this is all a part of somebody learning how to work on forgiveness and not have a heart. Like, don't create an environment around you that hardens your heart. Don't create an environment around you that softens you. Truly. Stop creating environments around you that just make you harder, that just harden your heart, that just make you feel more resentful. Like, you have the power, you control that, make a difference, make a change, uproot everybody if you need to. Y'all should know by now. Like, I don't know how many this is like coming to Dallas. This is like my 50th time starting over. Last year, I had zero, I'm not exaggerating, zero friends and zero family. It was a clean, very clean slate. Very clean slate. Every relationship that happened either had to be reconciled because of divine intervention, or it was a new friendship that came. Like a new, like, and they were completely different from old ones. Like, these connections are so different, but it's because I had to make room. Now, that does not mean I went through a very, very painful journey of grieving people and losing people and fighting with people and, like, you know, couldn't see past why God wanted me to let them go. And we have these relationships in our life where you're like, no, not this one, not this one. I love her, I love him. This is my best friend. This is my lifelong friend. This is my man. This is my person. I get that, but it's not what I'm telling you. Like, any relationship that sows discord in your life, it is not it. It's not. And again, it's only going to lead you to be hardened, and you're going to be resentful because this is something in your life that just doesn't align. And that's another thing, like, having a hardened heart, it doesn't align with God's heart. So that's how you always know there's resistance against something that God wants for you, and that's why it's so painful to go through sometimes. It's just so much easier when you can, like, really flow through life. Again, like, you guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it, truly. Like, everything does flow. Like, you know where you're at in life and if you're happy or if you're not, because of how your heart is operating, because of how you treat people and because of how you treat others and because of how you treat yourself. We all know those people, and we all know what it's like to be that person that's just angry and bitter and pissed and jealous and insecure and just ugh. And, like, how much that, like, then you're projecting and you're, just being mean and you're just saying crazy stuff. Like, none of that. It's never good to be that person, and it doesn't feel good to be around that. But a lot of us will, because we feel bad, or it's trauma bonding, or you want to help them or whatever. No. Like, last thing, either tomorrow we'll open up more about forgiveness, or we will I'll write this down, or boundaries. What do we want tomorrow? Forgiveness or boundaries? I should have wrote that down. Well, I'll write them both just to know. Actually, I have a Bible study on forgiveness, by the way, an old one on YouTube. I spelled that totally wrong. Oh, forgiveness, boundary, forgiveness. I don't think it's necessarily. I know we have this whole thing. I'll say this, like, one last thing. Well, tomorrow we'll do, depending on who pops in the live tomorrow, whatever majority says, we'll do that tomorrow. Forgiveness or boundaries. I don't have the time yet, so just put your post notifications on, because I don't know when I'll be on live tomorrow, but I am shooting for a 5 a.m. Bible study, early. But I will say, like, this last thing, like, I know everyone says, like, you are who you attract. And I know that, like, people are just always like, man, like, okay, like me, for example, right? I'm a single mom. Any man I've met, they all have no dads and raised by a single mom and have mommy and daddy issues. Like, it's never fails. So there was a point where I could have been like, man, like, I attract every man with mommy issues who's looking for a mom, because I'm a single mom, and, like, that's what we give, right? Like, we give such a single, like, it's just that weird attachment psychology behind it, right? Like as a single mom, I typically attract men who have mommy issues who are looking for a mom, right? It's just like cycle of life attachment. So it's easy to fall into this narrative of like, why I always attract this, or like I always attract blah blah blah. At the end of the day, like anytime it really does boil down to a boundary thing. You have to recognize what suits you and what doesn't. And so at the end of the day, you really attract all kinds of things. Where we decide to put our attention to and what we decide to fall for and the cycles we choose to repeat again, that's typically on us. So it seems like we're attracting the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's just our patterns. Like, you know how they say we don't date people, we date our patterns? It's just whatever pattern you decide to fall into. I feels like I attract every man with mommy issues because I entertain all the men with mommy issues. So guess what? Moving forward, anytime I meet a man and I know that they don't have a mom in their life, or I can pick it up immediately, and I'm like, oh, you know what? This is not a pattern I'm gonna follow. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like it's not necessarily a like you are what you attract. And then things change. Like with time, once you stop entertaining certain energy and once you stop giving your and once you stop operating on a certain level, right? Because as soon as you give your, I don't care how high you feel like you're vibrating, I don't care all that stuff. As soon as you give yourself energy to something that is just below you, you are now operating that low. Even when it comes to gossip, like you could be having the most beautiful day. As soon as you start gossiping, you just immediately boom all the way down here. Like it puts you into this such a lower state, right? Like it puts you in just it makes you not be who you genuinely know, like not have the heart that you want to have when you're doing just like stuff that's just below you. You know what I mean? Like now I think about, and it's nothing again. Like if I were to come across a man tomorrow that had mommy issues again, I would be like, I would be able to hear and empathize instead of wanting to be like, oh, I'll save you. Y'all see a huge difference. So you learn this stuff along the way. So because I don't even put my energy into that, I don't attract, it's different things that are coming my way. Like I can come across a friend. We'll take there was a period too where I felt like all my women friends, they were all struggling single moms. Every woman that I came across was a struggling single mom. And what I did was I overcompensated. As a single mom, I like showed up as all their baby daddies. You know how hard that was, but that was on me. I gave my energy to them. I was like, I need to save y'all too. And like, I want to, mind you, I'm a whole ass single mom too. But like for example, like the single moms that I would meet, they had more than one kid, so I would justify it. I'd be like, well, no, like they're a single mom of two. I'm just a single mom of one. Like that's what I entertain that. I put my energy into helpless women. So now moving forward, who were still going back and forth with their baby daddies, right? I had already peeled past that. So moving forward, let's say I meet a woman tomorrow and she's like, yeah, girl, I'm struggling. I would immediately I would love them and I would empathize with them and I would be there for them, but I would clock the fact that I can't be attached to this. Does that make sense? And it's nothing personal and it's nothing against any human. It's one of those things where it's like that's what happens. Going back to like what you attract. It's really not necessarily what you attract. It's what you it's like what energy you give, like what energy you give to people. You control your energy and who you're giving it to. So yeah, if you want to keep expending all your energy into struggling single moms as a friend, that's going to be on you. And I hated, and that created so much resentment because I was already struggling. And I was like, no, I want your kid or not. Like I would, dude, I did so much. Oh my gosh. So now I'm here babysitting 5 kids. So a mom could have a break, and I didn't even know these women. This was just me immediately because I used to meet somebody and be like, "Oh my god, what can I do for you?" Like, da, da, da. They didn't even prove to me that they could do anything for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like so much of that has changed over time. That's why I can talk to this resentful conversation because I've been there, done that. But again, not about what you attract, but you, you know, it's what you put your energy to. Where are you putting your resources? Where are you putting your energy? And now, for whatever reason, let me think. The only woman, the last, and then I think it proves itself because the last single mom who I met, my girl Tiffany, that she's my only single mom friend right now. She's the only single mom friend that exists in my life. My girl Tiffany, guess what? We are on the exact same path. Same, we have the same son, same, we have one son, same age, both single, both focused on our career, both through social media. Like we are so aligned in that way. But I would not have been able to get that had I still been attaching myself to things I had no business being in. And that and that doesn't mean I didn't love these women. One of these women, and like, again, only if y'all know or were there, one of these women became my best friend. She's the one who stole my couch. Then she ended up stealing my couch. Crazy. Oh my God. That was so devastating. She broke my heart. This friend broke my heart. But shit, that happens. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, I mean, but like again, that's like life. I've done gone through so many breakups and heartbreak, and but that's my fault. But again, because you have to. I didn't recognize character from the beginning. I knew she was somebody who used people, but I am very gullible, and I just never think someone's going to do it to me. So I'll hear people, and I'm like, no, like, that's crazy, but not to me. And then it happens to me, and I'm like, oh my God. So like you again, you live, you learn, like you really do have to test the fruits of people. That's why I'm saying, like, that's why now my flowers, oh, they make me feel like I could just relax and rest and not do anything. Like, they are so helpful and they show up for me and they just do stuff for me. And it's just like, I would have never had that. I would have never had that had I not made the room for it. So, like, my garden is now, she's pretty. She's getting back in order and I love it. And it's like, I wouldn't have this if I did not have a soft heart. God would not have been able to place the people and flowers and things in my heart that He would now. And now, when you get to that point, it makes everything you've gone through like really worth it. It makes you really appreciating, okay, like I love those women down and then, I'm happy we learn from each other and you keep it pushing. And now I have a single mom bestie, and she's amazing. And it's like we're the exact same place in life. So everything truly, He does want, I promise you, He does want the best for you. And He does want good relationships for you. He does want you to have friendships. He does want you to have a healthy relationship. All those things. And the work, again, is not easy. And yeah, it takes time. This is years in the making. This has all happened in the span of like 5 years because I didn't start having to create my own life till 2021. So this has been in the making since 2021. We're now in 2026. So yeah, like 5 years in the making. So it takes time. But anyway, tomorrow, forgiveness or boundaries. It'll be one of the two. Whatever we don't go over tomorrow, we'll just go over Wednesday. But we'll see. We'll see what the chat says tomorrow. Whatever y'all prefer. I could speak to both, but I think boundaries would be really, really, really good because that's where a lot of people struggle. But that's also where my biggest struggle was. Like my biggest struggle, and everybody could tell you my boundaries sucked. Like literally, like everybody could tell you. Vanity just, I was such a, I would say yes to everything. Like literally. Like, yeah, why not? I wouldn't even think. Yes, yes, yes. It's just always a yes, man. I had no boundaries. I was like, F it. Like I would just, it was most. So but no, once you clean that up and you get boundaries, it is 100 times easier to filter out your life. It is so easy. And the things that you get scared of, they don't even happen. Like I used to be so worried that people were gonna hate me, be mad at me. It don't even, it's not a thing. Like so yeah. We'll talk tomorrow. I hope that helped. I'm gonna try to be on here tomorrow at 5 a.m. Bear with me as I try to get my sleep back in order, but I would prefer to be here and really get back to our 5 a.m. Bible studies, maybe 4 a.m. So we'll see. But you can put your post notification on in case it's not that early. And then we'll talk about one of those two tomorrow. Okay. Amen. I'm a little late on this, but yes. Sorry, YouTube. But y'all have a good day. Bye, YouTube. And then, of